Okay, so we've looked at making decimals into percents, percents to decimals, decimals to fractions, and fractions to decimals. So we're just going to kind of wrap this all together and look at them across the spectrum. So right here it says fill in the blank by converting between percent, decimals, and fractions if needed. We're going to go ahead and round 4 decimal places to the nearest 10,000th. And for the percent, we're just going to go 2 decimal places to the nearest hundredth. And so if we look at our first one right here, we have our fraction of 7/20ths. And so if we want to put that as a decimal, we need to go ahead and divide 20 into 7. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on a clean page. So let's divide 20 into 7, which it won't go into. So I have to go ahead and add a place value here. And so then 20 goes into 70 3 times. Then we'll subtract 60 from that, and that will leave us with 1.0. And so then 20 cannot go into 10, so we're going to add another place value. So then 20 can go into 105 times. So we're going to get 0.35 here. Okay, so let's go back to our slide here. And so we're going to put in our decimal for this. This is going to be 0.35. And now to convert between decimals and percent, there's this little trick. Maybe you've heard of it before, maybe you haven't. If you think of Dr. Pepper, right? And so if you want to go from a decimal to a percent, you have to move 2 spots to the right. And if you want to go from a percent back to a decimal, you have to move it 2 spots to the left. Essentially, what we're doing is you're multiplying by 100 to get into a percent. So we're going to, if you're going this direction, you're basically going to multiply by 100, which causes that decimal place to shift. So now we're looking at 35% over here. And if you go back the other way, you're dividing by 100 in order to go to a decimal place. So anyway, it's just a little trick because sometimes students kind of confuse, okay, which way do I move my decimal? And so that Dr. Pepper thing might help you. If not, it's fine. Use whatever is working for you. All right, looking at our next one. So I'm at my decimal. So if I want to convert it to a percent, we're going to move it 2 spots to the right. So this would be 92%. And then as far as for a fraction, what we're going to do is I'm essentially going to multiply this by like 100 over 100. And so what that does is that's going to give me, I'm going to put it right here for right now because it can reduce 92 over 100. So multiplying 90.92 by 100 will shift that decimal place 2 spots. And then I'm dividing by 100. I'm essentially multiplying by the number 1 right now. And because 100 divided by 100 is just 1. So I'm just manipulating it. But then I noticed that they're both even numbers. 92 and 100 are both even. So I'm going to go ahead and start by cutting them in half. And so let's see, that would give me 46 over 50, which they're still even. So I can cut them in half again. So let's go ahead and do that. So that'll give me 23 over 25. And then now it's reduced. Okay, looking at our next one, this time they give us a percent and they want us to, we have to move it into a decimal and then we'll go to a fraction. So this time I move my decimal spot. Be careful, I'm going to move it to the left 2 spots. So this number is actually going to get pretty small. So I'm going from a percent to a decimal. So this is actually going to be 0.0029. And then once again, what I'm going to do here is I'm essentially going to multiply the top and bottom by 10,000. So 10,000 over 10,000. So that's essentially what I'm doing here in order to convert this to a fraction. And then I don't believe it's going to reduce, but we'll just kind of double check it. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 spots. So that's however many zeros I'm multiplying by 1 followed by is how many decimal places it's going to move. So we're going to get to 29 over 10,000. And 29 is a prime number. And so 10,000 is not going to be divisible by that prime number. All right, moving on. We got a couple left here. So once again, this time we're starting out with a fraction. So I need to convert it into a decimal. and I need to go 4 decimal places. So I'm going to go ahead and go back over here where I have a little bit more room. We're going to divide 12 into 11, which we'll see 12 cannot divide evenly into 11 or even to give me a whole number. So we're going to go ahead and add a place value here. So let's see. I think it's going to be 9. So let's see. 9 times 12, and if you need to, just do your scratch paper. Let's see. 8, carry the 1. So that'll give me 108. So 108. And so we'll go ahead and subtract that from this. And so you're going to have to borrow here. And so we're going to end up getting 0.2. Then I have to go ahead and bring down a place value here. So then 12 divides into 20, let's see, 1 time. Then multiply by 12. And so I get 12 or 0.12 here. And so then we'll go ahead and subtract that. And once again, I'll have to borrow here. And so let's see, we're going to have 0.08. And let's see, 12 cannot divide into 8. So once again, I'll have to add another place value here. So now 12 can divide into 80. Let's see, how many times? Let's see, probably about 6 times, right? So let's try that, 6. So 6 times 12, let's see, 2, carry the 1, 6, 72, yes. So we're going to go ahead and we have to subtract 0.072 from this. Okay, and let's see, that will leave me with, so I got to borrow again. That'll leave me with 0.008 right there. And it looks like I'm going to start having a repeat decimal of the 6 right here. Because what I'm going to do is bring down my 0 again. 12 goes into 80 6 times. I get the 0.0072, and I'm just going to continue to get that, so that 6 is just repeating at this point. So 0.916 repeating, but if we go back here, we have to be a little careful. So let me write this down over here, 0.916 repeating. So we're supposed to round to the nearest 10,000th place, so 4 decimal places. So it's going to be 0.916, and then instead of writing 6 again, actually I need to write a 7 because I'm rounding, because that 6 would just be repeating. And so if I'm rounding up to the 4th decimal place, that 6 has to round up to a 7 right there. And then as a percent, this would be 91.67% right there. Okay, last one here. So this time we're given a percent, and we're given it with a fraction right here. Not a big deal. We've gone over this before on how to convert this to a decimal. So it's going to be 4 plus whatever 3/5 is, right? And so 3/5 is 0.6. So 4 plus 0.6, or basically this is 4.6% right here. Okay, after that, this should be fairly simple. And so if we're going to convert this to a decimal, we have to move that decimal spot 2 spots to the left. So this is going to be 0.046. And then the last thing we need to do is convert this to a fraction, which it will be reduced. So we'll have to take care of that in a second. So I need to move this 3 spots because I want to have 46 as my numerator. So I'm going to have to multiply by 1,000. That'll move this 4 spots, but then I need to divide it by 1,000. Basically, we're just manipulating it. That's a big part of math, is just doing manipulations to put it in a little bit easier form to work with. And so now we have 46 over 1,000, and you'll notice they're both even. So we'll cut them in half. And so this will become a 23 over 500, and 23 is prime, and you could try to see if 500 could break up into a 23, but it's not. And so at this point, we're done. All right, so we were doing our conversions from decimals to percents, decimals to fractions, and so on. And so we kind of just pieced it all together.